All right. Peace
Got
and
it.
blessings. Namaste to light workers, warriors, and everything in between. It is I, Sophie, and joining me is a very special, exciting guest named
Oh my God.
Gail. She is from Gaea. Go ahead and tell the audience where what your company or organization is about.
It is a dream, and it's like a tree that still has to grow. So the way I see it, I put down the roots, and it's my dream that it's gonna be like a holistic center in Rotterdam. And now I'm just offering personal sessions, one-on-one healing sessions.
Yes.
And yes, I organize events as well, meditation groups. But with
Mm.
the whole Corona thing, things started to slow down because yes, when you rent somewhere, you have to do the QR code and stuff. So I'm just looking at things to, yeah, develop maybe in another way and how to go with the times.
Gotcha. Understood. And I want to tell the audience, okay, we started to do this video about an hour and a half ago. We could not get sound going. We could not get, I mean, it was just a nightmare, but we are finally here and I am excited.
Yes, me as well. And I guess maybe the delivery process had to be this way because I was nervous waiting for you.
Really?
And yeah, getting nervous because for me it's also the first time in really going public on in the internet, and it doesn't work for me to just talk into a camera without having the interaction. So when I saw your video, I was like, my goddess, I have to talk to this woman.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is mutual. So,
Yeah, so you also are like getting me, how do you say it? You drew out like the me that wanted to get out. So it's like almost what my first
activate.
yeah, my first on stage experience.
I love it. I love it. And you're a beautiful sister. And I just love seeing your face and I love your smile and I love your energy. So, well, how can I help you? What do you need from me?
Oh, I'm so thankful that you agreed on such a short notice as well. And actually, this is the nice thing I think about the whole internet thing, because I got off of all the social media except from Telegram, and I'm shutting down my Instagram.
Mm,
But
yeah.
it is so nice that we can yeah, just reach out to each other like worldwide and have these kinds of talks. I mean, I'm still amazed that all these things are possible.
Yes. Especially from the Netherlands.
The Netherlands, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But also how you can find each other, like everything is symbolic because, I mean, the internet is man-made. And if we can see that by the internet we are connected, we can also feel on a spiritual level how connected we are energetically.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's the nice part about it. And also how you get led to the people you need, or the guides, or when you say, when they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes.
But
Yes.
also I think when you want to collaborate, it works the same way. So I mean, I just got on a YouTube video of you, and I thought I have to search for her because I forgot the name. And afterwards, I couldn't find you. And I thought I have to go and look up what her name again was, because I sought you out on Sophia Christus.
Ooh, okay.
So that is really what this talk is also about, I think, to start with. Like, that is the basic, I guess, for you and me, and where we connected.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me a bit about the Sophia Christ consciousness.
Oh, Lord, long time in the making. coming into the age of Aquarius. And when you see the symbolism behind the age of Aquarius, it actually tells the story. So what you're seeing is a male figure that is pouring out water. And that living, flowing water is that Sophia Christ consciousness, that is that love, okay, that is that Holy Spirit.
And I'm an Aquarian.
Yes. So during this age, this is when the divine feminine, and the divine masculine are supposed to balance out all of these energies. Because of course, in the past, we always had a patriarchal type of spiritual system. And even with me, even starting out and trying to understand that there is a divine feminine, you go through this phase of, am I going to be blasphemous? Is this true? You know what I mean? Is there this feminine counterpart? And you struggle with that for a little bit, and you want to call into, your divine feminine goddess, but at the same time, you're thinking about, well, what about God? Am I going to get in trouble?
Yes.
So it took me such a long time to get comfortable with the fact that, yes, there was a feminine counterpart. Yes, the Ein Sof is both masculine and feminine. And yes, I have the ability to tap into that nature. So yeah, that Sophia Christ consciousness is all about that expansion. It's all about that unconditional love. It's about that light, but it's also about right knowledge. It's the wisdom that is coming in right now. It's the wisdom. It's about the things that we have taken in the past and now bringing it with a newness of spirit by the spirit of understanding and wisdom. She was missing for a while. People had all these spiritual systems and we had all of these books, right? But without the wisdom, people really couldn't comprehend what they were reading. Like it was going over their head. It just looks like nonsense. So those people just knew that all they're supposed to do is just go to work and pray or go to church and pray, But now, because it said at the end of the age, the end of the age of Pisces, that knowledge was going to increase all over the world. And now here comes Sophia saying, wait a minute, this is just not a patriarchy. I am here and I am a creatress and I am the agent of chaos in a positive way, right? So learning how to identify with her chaos, even in my mindset, even with all of the travels, and just knowing that she is here and we have to heal these men, okay? We have to heal the divine masculine, right? Some of them.
But if we start at, I wonder, because I do think that in your videos, I can hear that between the lines, like when was there some sort of almost a calling? Like for me, it was like when I was in a school long time ago, we used to pray to the Father.
Right.
And I always had something like, if there is a father, there has to be a mother as well.
Exactly.
So I used to pray to the Father. And then when I went to this school, it was a Catholic school, I learned about Mother Mary. Okay. Because in my own religion or upbringing, there was no Mother Mary.
Right.
So
I'm either. Yeah.
I had something like, if I pray to the Father, I have to pray to the Mother as well. So every night I prayed to both. I did the both prayers. Okay. And then later on, I thought, you know what it is? I am in search of the feminine face of God.
Yes. As
if she was calling out to me. So it was like, it started with small things, like as if the calling, then it started like I wrote about dialogues with the goddess, but that was the archetype, Yeah. So that's why I'm asking in the whole process, because you are talking in that way as well. It's not like something you just wake up one day and you think, oh, there is a female or a female aspect to the God, because it brings you as well to the deeper esoteric knowledge, right?
The left-hand path.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, to answer your question, I think my awakening journey started really, really early. The churches I went to, we always prayed to the Father too, but I always had a question. It always bothered me in Genesis. The Genesis story did not sit well with me. Okay. And it's the part of the story where they were saying, you know, that they took a rib from Adam's side, and then here comes the woman. And then now, okay, God. So now it's God, and then man, and then woman, and she is simply to be his helpmeet. And so when I was reading these stories, the first question that came to my mind is, okay, if these Elohim created man after their own image, what image was the woman created? Right? What was the image that she created? And it wasn't a matter of, okay, well, we just took the rib from his side, created another being, okay, and just put her anatomy, because we don't even think like that. You see what I'm saying? It's associated with a whole consciousness, right? And so that was the defining moment for me when I was like, okay, I have to find out, because I knew deep down inside that this was wrong. And I knew the woman had a place. I couldn't prove it at that time because I was very young.
No, but that is when you met Lilith, right?
I didn't meet Lilith first. Lilith came behind that. Okay. So the first divine feminine I think I really, really started identifying with was Inanna. Okay. And that was because, you know, I was reading a lot of the ancient Sumerian texts, and it was something about her nature that when I was reading her, I said, God, she reminds me of me. Like, she fought the same way. She fought for the same things. She was a goddess of love and war. So she, you know, and she was feared. Like Inanna was feared by the divine masculines. Okay. Nobody wanted to mess with her. She could chase them. And she was the most beloved of Anu. You know what I mean? So Anu favored Inanna over all of the masculines, you know, but you will see this story playing over and over and over and over again. When I started reading about the woman in the book of Revelations with the 12 stars in her head.
Oh my goddess, I'm just gonna faint now. Okay.
The 12 stars around her head. And I said, okay, where has this been duplicated? Okay. So this story, if you go to the Old Testament, right, you have a very similar story with Dinah and her 12 brothers, right? So Dinah was representing the divine feminine at that time, and her 12 brothers were representing the divine masculine patriarchs, right? Now you take that story and then you go into the New Testament, and now you have Mary Magdalene and the 12 disciples too. You have the woman with the 12 stars. So you can look at it as either this is a constellation type thing where Mother Earth is Gaia is harnessing the divine feminine, and these 12 stars are 12 constellations or eons, okay? But they're crowned over her head because they're pulling the power from her. But being as though it's not something that is very taught, unless you read the Piss of Sophia, you won't understand how these males were pulling her energy, pulling her power, okay, using it for themselves, and then flipping it over and just creating this patriarchy. At some point, our sons became jealous of us. I don't know if it was because of the intuition that we possess, okay? It makes us a little bit different. I don't know, but at some point, our sons became jealous of us, and they sought to usurp that authority. Inanna and Hathor, or Ishtar, it depends on, I guess which school of thought you're coming from, was the queen of heaven in the Old Testament, okay? And a lot of the Israelites at that time, the women started to get together. When they realized that she was the queen of heaven, all they had to do, they was baking cakes to her. And when they started baking cakes to her, their land prospered, okay? Everything grew. They sang, they laughed, they joked, but then the male Elohim came through, okay, with his prophets. And they started to question the women in that area. Like, who are you praying to? Like, they were false prophets. Because remember now, you didn't have a masculine God at that time. You was considered false. There was no feminine there. They was trying to remove all of the Elohim in plural to condense it to one, right? So these prophets started coming around and talking to the women of Israel and saying, where's your husbands? How are y'all, who are you worshiping? You better turn back to Yahweh, right? That type of thing. And the women said, would we be baking these things without our husbands knowing? And these women said, when we bake these breads to the queen of heaven, our lands prosper. We do good. But when we go back under this tutelage, then we're going into poverty. We having droughts, we're having famines. We got to go to Egypt. So that right there already started the rivalry. And so Inanna's crown was removed. They understand that her crown was removed. She was removed from being the queen of heaven. And then a male patriarch came up and reigned and then kind of subjugated all the other elves underneath them. Okay. But her story is around because it's symbolic, it's allegorical. This is what the divine feminine has went through and is constantly going through, even in this day and age. You come out powerful and beautiful like the way that you are, you're going to get attacked. You get attacked. You're not getting attacked by everybody, but there's some people that don't want to, they're not ready to let go of this. They're not ready to let go of this all male thing. They're not.
And still, I'm listening to you and how would you see it that as women, we also carry that wounded masculine part within us. So nowadays, before you can heal anything, you have to heal, of course, all the things that you were taught and let them go and heal the whole patriarch. How do you say it? The word? The patriarch.
You're fine.
Like we were raised as well as women in that kind of matrix. And we carry those things around as well, because if you look at feminism, for example, we also lost touch with the nurturing part of the goddess, but also the dark part, I mean, we cannot talk about all these topics in one interview. And I do think it would be lovely to deepen some stuff along the way in how things got split, but also within ourselves.
Yes. Okay.
So how would you view that, like when we do stand in our power, but also in the masculine power, not in balance with our feminine part? And I'm not saying this as a gender thing,
right?
But the two energies,
That's why I keep teaching the importance of equilibrium and balance, because when you have a feminine that is in distorted energy, then she becomes that feminist that you're talking about. Okay. The ones that, like you said, lost their ability to nurture. They want to stand as men as opposed to just operating out of their masculine principle. So the feminist movement is not the same as a divine feminine movement. Okay. But a lot of feminists may call themselves divine. Feminists may call themselves divine feminine, but if they're not balanced, they can't be. So when we're dealing with our masculine and feminine principles, all we're doing is balancing our logic, our analysis, our right thinking with our creativity, with our all expanse. So we're not limited in the areas that we move forward. We're not limited in our belief system, and we become perfectly balanced because now the mind and the heart is in agreement. When it's not in agreement, we fight with ourselves, and we can't get anything done. We can't get anything done when we're out.
And for me, that has been like the roots, because I come from a feminism background, because I used to work in a women's shelter for abused, abused women and children.
Yes, me too.
And the way my masculine energy came out was very destructive.
Ooh.
But you can also see it as maybe the archetype of the dark goddess. It's like finding your way in between those energies. And that is like a big healing part as well for me, in learning to balance through spirituality, that it's not about the genders,
right?
But you develop kind of and I think masculine and feminine, or maybe I should say male and female, struggle with this, because as children we were both, of course, socialized in a certain way. So what is seen on the outside, I had a lot of difficulty at times in like a love-hate relationship with male figures in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Too.
I think collectively we are healing now those that war within ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I know that most women have to okay, if you are a woman that is in business, if you are a woman that is in politics, I have held positions where I was the leader or the manager of a particular business, and all I had was males underneath me. Okay, so when you are that type of woman, you naturally have to tap into your masculine principle, because that's the only thing that they recognize. Okay, if I come across, I had in one of the businesses that I had, okay, when I was in North Carolina, which I am now though, okay, I had about 12 males underneath me, okay? And then you got that, and most of them was white males, okay? Just to let you know what I was dealing with. Most of them was white males. It had to be about 2 black men. So at this time, now you have this black woman that's coming into, this position of power. And I have to tell and direct these men on what they need to do. And they're looking at me like, well, who are you? They're over talking me. They're laughing, like they're not taking it serious. But when I tap into that masculine principle, and I'm like, hey, I need y'all to get this together, because if you don't want to, there's the door. Oh, I got your attention now. But when I come through with my soft nature, my nurturing, we get ran over. So you have to know, based off of who you're dealing with, the conversation that you're having, which principle is better for that. So all the times you might not be balanced. You might not be perfectly balanced, okay? But if I'm talking to you and you're a very sensitive soul, say the slightest thing, you've been hurt or have abandonment issues, and so you're very, very guarded and very sensitive, I can't talk to you in a masculine principle. It would destroy you. I have to talk to you in the principle that you're relating to. So now I have to come across softer. I have to be in that feminine energy to be able to get through you. But with the men, oh, I'm in masculine energy all day. And when it comes down to just doing my my spiritual work, that's when I'm balanced. That's when I'm balanced.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that is like the difficulty we are dealing with as a collective nowadays, is how do we heal in a world that is changing, but not at a very fast speed, like we know that the old systems are dying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that the divine feminine wants her equal place.
Mm-hmm.
And still we are like in the middle of it, trying to heal our wounds, trying to balance these two polarities within us. And we were talking about the left path. What is the healing path that would help others as well? Because I would really love for these talks that we have, like how did we dealt with it ourselves, or what can you tell people who are just stepping into all this stuff about balancing these two energies? Because I think if we can manage to balance all the polarities in this world and we go to a unity consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's our ideal, I guess. And first things have to maybe just be in this chaos in order to evolve in other forms. But what are the first steps, do you think?
I'm going to say this, okay, because we were talking about the left-hand path before, right? Before we actually had this video recorded. And you were, inquiring about it, like, how do you know, or that you're being led down this path? So I'm going to start there. Okay, the balancing and the esoteric knowledge and the wisdom, that is needed during this time is not going to be available to everybody. Okay, that's number one, because you have to have a certain amount of group of people that's already got it before they can spread it outwards. Okay, so during this time, there's a certain group, a certain amount of people that are going to be drawn to this, to be the leaders of that. They are the ones that are going to be balanced. The left-hand path isn't for everybody because you have to have a certain level of mental aptitude to not get lost in it. Okay, the left-hand path can take you down some very dark roads, but people who are called to the left-hand path are only called to the left-hand path to understand it. And they're called to understand it, to comprehend it, and to transmute any type of, negativity to that light, right? So we're balancing, the ones who are called to do that, we are balancing first, all right? And then just by our communication, just by what we are teaching, just by what people are witnessing as far as our energy, you will see that you will start to affect people naturally. You don't even have to go out and start pushing it and preaching it. Just being in your energy system, look at your smile. You know what I mean? Just being in your energy makes me smile. You see that?
Yeah.
So that's very.
But is that your intention as well with your channel to put it out there, like how I have found you?
Yes, I am putting it out there. I am.
Yes. So it's like who is resonating with the stuff that you're talking about, and who can have confirmation, information.
Right.
Is it an idea to as well put up some links about books or knowledge? Because I love knowledge. That's why I found Sophia, of course.
Yeah.
And I love wisdom.
Yes.
So yeah, I
have plenty of books. I can do that. I can definitely do that.
To as like a starting point, like people who because I do think if you have a starting point, things will appear synchronistically if you're on that path.
Right. So basically the people who tend to go down that path, their starting points are their old religious systems. Okay, so if you were a Christian, your starting point would be the Bible, right? But what will happen is when you're reading it, if it's not clicking, then you start to say to yourself, it's got to be more than this. This is people that got that urge. I need more. I need more. Okay, let's look at the Bible. How many books is it? 66, right? We have 66 books in the Bible. That's 2 6s right there. Where's the third? Okay, so now we have 3 6s if you include man's ability to manipulate it or take information out or put information in and have lying scribes, and not say, I'm not putting this out there to say that the Bible itself is evil. It is not. Okay, it is actually a holy book if you know how to read it. Okay, and when I'm saying about if you know how to read it, you're not supposed to just read it for all of the good stuff. You're supposed to see the bad in it too. You're supposed to be looking at the mistakes that we made in the past. You're supposed to be seeing, all of this, because the Bible, people was thinking that the Bible is just the word of God. That's not true. That's not true. The Bible is a bunch of books of collections of historical accounts, inspired writings, prophetic utterance, and the word of God, right? So some people are just reporting based off their own experiences. Now, when you start to see that, and you start to see the conflict that goes on, like sometimes it looks like it's contradicting itself. When you start to get to that point, then that's when you start to say, I got to find something else because this is not making sense. Something is being left out. Then slowly but surely, you're going to be guided to more ancient texts, more wisdom. Then once you get down, you might start now gravitating to Gnosticism, okay? And the left-hand path, understanding the Zohar, understanding Kabbalah, understanding alchemy, understanding all of those things. Once you start understanding those things, now you go back to, with that newness of understanding, to these spiritual systems again. Everything is 360 degrees, right? So we keep going around and around and spiraling, revisiting, but with a higher vantage point and higher vantage point. But only certain people are called to that. When I say that you can get lost on the left-hand path, you can, because now you're going to be exposed to the other polarity. All right. And I typically don't push people to take that path. I feel like you should be called to do it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the path that is choosing you, and not you are choosing it.
Yes.
Because you can only look back and see by comparison. I mean, when you were talking about that path, I didn't even know it had a name. But by my experiences, I thought, geez, now I have a word that explains it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are just at the tip of the iceberg, like talking about all these things. It goes so much deeper, and it's a lifelong process to discover, of course, all these things. And my love for books, I think I always say God talks in a language that you understand, and it talks to you through the things that you love. So I am always led to certain books or certain things on the internet, and I think, oh, this is what it means. And you are saying it as well, like it's about learning and evolving, right?
That's all. Right. We take the old foundations, we take away what no longer serves the people, what no longer, what did did these services do an injustice? Did they better us, or did they make us work? Each and every age, we go through this exact same thing. Okay. People are looking at this new age, the ending and this new beginning, like this is something brand new. It's not. We go through these cycles it's going to continue to do it. But each and every time that we go through another eon cycle, we are perfecting the one previous before that. So people that are expecting this instant change, like one day we're going to wake up and all of this is wrong and all of this is right. That's never going to happen. This has to be a process, okay? Because we got to build and we have to comprehend what happened in the older times, okay? When they were dealing with that whole thing of Eve biting the apple, or having the knowledge or the forbidden fruit, and we weren't supposed to have any knowledge, right? Yeah. There is truth in that, and there's also falsehood, okay? And the way that I'm going to explain it is this way. Humanity was always supposed to have knowledge, right? But if humanity is a baby race at this time, what will they do with the knowledge? Do they have the ability to comprehend it? So where we messed up in the back was pushing the process a little bit quicker than what we should have, because it's almost equivalent to giving a elementary school student a college level book and telling them go. They haven't really experienced too much. So now you have humanity with the help of the angels and stuff like that, with all of this knowledge, but immature in the mind, immature in the spirit. And what ends up happening is we start to corrupt ourselves. We corrupted our spiritual teachings. I tell people all the time, even with any book, I don't care if it's the Quran, I don't care if it's any of the Vedic books. When you look at a Bible, you need to be processing it as like a constitution. All right. The Constitution was written to govern a nation, or a body of people. So it had laws for living, community living. Okay. It had laws for how to deal with one another. Okay. And it had laws on how to relate to our Creator. Very simple in its form is the Golden Rule or the 10 Commandments, right? Those are very simple forms, or the Buddhic principle, the Vedic paths, okay? Those are very simple concepts in themselves. But as life starts to go on, okay, as humanity starts to evolve, here comes more issues that couldn't be found in the book. And because many people wasn't automatically connected to the divine, they didn't know what was right or wrong at the time because of the free will. They did it. And so man started adding more and more and more and more. Before you knew it, religion was like this. Okay. Before you knew it, everybody was being choked out. Nobody could live up to these laws. Nobody. And so we just started giving up, like, screw it. Okay. If every little thing that I do is going to put me into hell, then I might as well be the queen of it.
Because do you think that because of the Adam and Eve story, that that was the start? Do you think that by that story, we all think that we were born or pushed out of paradise because we sinned?
Mhm.
So that doesn't give you like a good feeling as a human being that you were like naughty children.
Until you start to visit more esoteric books. Until, yes, you will have that. I didn't like the way the church made me feel. I didn't like the way they painted Eve to be. Okay?
Yeah.
As if she was the one, you know what I mean, that caused all of this fall. The reason why a lot of the patriarchs or male Elohim fear us is because the divine feminine was the first power to challenge an El. It depends on how you look at the story. Okay. So if we're going to look at the story the way the Bible is, and I'm going to tell you, there's way better and different stories. But if we're going to keep it on a surface level for others that are possibly tuning in and only deal with the Bible, and you're going to look at it and you're going to say, okay, Eve was the downfall of man because she gave him the apple and he was too much of a coward to stand up and say, I don't want to eat this. This is what God said. And when he got caught, who did he blame? He didn't even protect her. Okay, I don't even want to get into that part. He didn't even protect her. He went to God and was like, the woman told you that you made me. He blamed God and her. Okay, but we overlooked that part. Now, she was the only one. The first
we
one.
Also have.
Go ahead. Well, go ahead. Well, I'm gonna finish it.
We also have to talk about the symbolism of what the apple was.
All right, let me get to that one. Okay. Now
that's for a next time.
Yeah, we're going to do that next time. There's two ways you can go with that one.
Yes, because then you go even deeper as well. It was not an apple, right?
Right, no, it definitely wasn't. But for the sake of argument in Christian belief, right?
Yeah.
When you really look at the story, okay, this serpent, okay, that they're calling a serpent, which is actually a seraphim, right? That's because the term seraphim is fiery serpent. So this is a dragon or serpent energy that everybody has been demonizing for a very long time. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, grow up. But the point
because what is the serpent energy, right?
I know, right? But the woman, this serpent says to her, "I'll tell you not to eat that fruit." And she goes, "Yeah, and he says, "Why?" And she said, "Because we will die," right? And so the serpent starts laughing. And he's like, "Are you serious? You're not going to die." They know the moment that you eat of that you will be just like the Elohim, knowing good from evil. So Eve is now going, so y'all trying to keep us dumb. Let me go ahead and chew this real quick. You know what I mean? Let me get this information. Because why? The one thing that we know now is if you don't have the ability to discern right from wrong or good for evil, then you won't have the ability to understand what you're following. We needed that knowledge. Okay. Eve, now if you go through an older text, the Nag Hammadi scriptures, that story will say something completely different, that it was the divine feminine, okay, that appeared there and said, "No, I have to give you the divine spark. You are supposed to have this knowledge. You're not supposed to be a slave race." But because they were creating at the time and they didn't want us to understand good and evil, right? So they were going to keep us as a slave race. Later on in Genesis, it actually tells you, then that's the funniest part, that the Elohim got together once they found out that we partook of the forbidden food. The Elohim got together and said, now that they have eaten this, they're going to be just like us, knowing good for evil. And if they eat from the tree of life, they'll have eternal life. So they admitted it. So my question is, while y'all are demonizing the serpent, did the serpent lie? Did they lie?
Yeah.
They didn't. There was a truth. We did not die, but we were awakened. And what happened when we became awakened immaturely, we started to digress a little bit. We got pumped up, but we were an immature species. We were an immature species. We were supposed to go through levels and levels and levels of evolution so that this thing was natural and we would have perfected it.
Okay, and how would you link it, this thing that was happening then, to our own awakening processes at this time?
Just identifying and connecting with understanding your nature and your history, where you came from. Okay, so when we start to deal with these stories and we understand where the divine feminine is, where she did right, where she did wrong, both her polarities, the beautiful light goddess and the terrible dark mother, now we could go back and read it and we can feel comfortable in our skin in this day and age. We weren't comfortable in our skin back then because this information wasn't given to us. So most of us who had natural gifts, natural abilities, you know, natural inner strength as divine feminine, what were we called? Witches, evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we carry those traumas and wounds from other past lives, I guess. So in the whole evolving of humanity and like raising consciousness, I guess the alchemy, the Kabbalah. I just watched actually like something on YouTube about that alchemy can be like a really good tool for us to heal the wounds of our souls.
Absolutely, because everything is about how you think. That mental alchemy changes and transforms your world. It's a law of correspondence. It's an as above, so below type of concept. You know, so you want things to work for you, you know, in the higher realms, you have to have that understanding and have it work here on the lower realms. And a lot of the way we process information is what holds us back and keeps us from healing a lot too. When we and I talked about that, what's the lesson, right?
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead and tell them, sister. Tell them how you told me. What's the lesson? Go ahead.
We talked about so many things. Which lesson?
Well,
like you were talking about when we were talking in the clubhouse.
Yes. Like once you have the ability to see what it is that you're going through, whether it's a terrible time in your life.
Yeah.
The way that you process this, the universe is mental. Right? So naturally, the way that you respond to these things, the way that you process this information is always going to affect the universe, your own personal life and your surrounding. It's a microcosm to a macrocosm.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is as well in I guess in the whole process of alchemy and alchemizing the soul, once you're you're beginning to understand, like, okay, you know, the universal laws, you know, that what happens to you, and you were talking about this in your last video, I guess, like you just mentioned the word mental alchemy, you called it, right?
Yes, mental alchemy.
That once you are at that point where you can see what is the lesson in this, and you can experience yourself again as the soul that you are and having this human experience, that you can deal with situations and experiences in a whole other way than just our small by our small human minds.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times we get to, okay, let's go with the movement, you know, of the manifestation type of movement. Okay, the chalkboards, the vision boards, and all of that stuff that, you know, that people are just now discovering. It's interesting because that concept itself is not new. It has always existed. And at one point, it even was existent in the church. Do you remember when they were going through this name it, claim it phase? Oh my God, every televangelist, okay, was out there, name it, claim it. And you had a group of Christians going around touching things. I claim this in the name of God, and this is mine, and that's my house, and that's this, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. That's no different than what's being taught now, okay? But they're teaching it in a different level. What happens is,
because this is the part this is a
Wait a
part
minute,
of
wait a minute, Gail.
imagination.
Let me finish this real quick. The part that bothers, well, not bothers, the part that people don't get with this manifesting, okay, is you can't manifest something that does not belong to you. So people were going around trying to claim or manifest, I want this, I want that, I want that, but they're only doing it from the space of selfishness of what I need. What about everybody else around me?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is where it goes deeper, I guess, because if you think of the laws and you think of all, I think it's the Hermetic principles. I don't know for sure if that's it, but in alchemy, there is also a thing like imagination, right? And if you
Yes.
look at Jung also said active imagination. So these things have been there for eons, I guess, you know.
It's not a new concept.
No. And because what you're actually saying is we are just starting to remember.
Exactly.
Right? Like peeling off all those layers, all the programming that we were like, I mean, we were programmed to be a certain way, of course, with, I think, an agenda behind that. And what is like, I think, important in these times is remembering who we actually are, which means going back to your true essence, right?
That's right.
And that is just like an onion peeling off the layers.
Yeah, it is. And it's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful.
And that is something I would love to interview you about as well, because thank you for bringing this up, because it's like not a nice picture.
No.
I mean, if I look at my path, sometimes I think, wow, that I went through all these things. And people only mention in spirituality like the bliss, but the dark night of the soul, the shadow work, the inner work. And it's like really trying to, how do they say it in alchemy? Turning lead into gold.
Transmuting.
Right? Transmutation. I mean, it's not a walk in the park.
No. No. Some people, it takes lifetimes.
It's not for the faint-hearted. And I do miss those kind of talks where people can really talk about the hard parts in it, and the dark nights and the loneliness on this path, you know. It is as if when you talk to someone about it and you talk about the shadow work, you talk about the dark parts of yourself that you're ashamed of, there is almost no video. It's just coming up now about shadow work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not put out there like, okay, if you enter this spiritual path, and it doesn't matter which spiritual path you enter.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. Because what is hurtful is you're just like all these ego deaths. People used to say to me, yeah, every time you are dying. I said, because that became a part of me.
Yeah.
Like all the ego deaths. And you don't know. I mean, it is like sometimes you think, oh, I'm already there. Then something hits you and you go back to something you already thought you dealt with.
Thank you. It shows right back up and you're like, holy crap. Yeah.
And you think, gosh, am I that dumb in not learning the lesson still?
Right.
But that I think that's the ugly and the hard part of a soul's journey and path. That's why I call it the heroine's journey, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I think it is important to share our experiences and our stories and to put it out there that it is hard. I mean, it's not a fairy tale story.
2020, I spent the most time crying that I've ever did in my entire life. I have never been a crier. Okay, I've never been a crier because since the time that I was young, I had established a very a level of independence and strength because of what I had to fight with. Okay, so after coming up from that, I mean, even with the males, you know, males in your family, you know, the males in the church, you know, all of that stuff. So I'm not a crier. I'm not a very sensitive person, but I'm very empathic. But in 2020, I think I must have died 1,000 deaths. The reason why it's not popular, okay, out here talking about the shadow work is because the people that are the true spiritualists are being overlooked. Okay, the people that have the real knowledge, the people that are really walking the path, they're being overlooked because it's a harder journey. And it's easier to take a YouTube video out there and saying, oh, everything is love and light and we will win and this, that, and the third. That's easier and it gets everybody excited. But how are you going to get to that point?
Everything is like rainbows and butterflies and unicorns.
And pixie dust.
I mean, you do have those moments. I can really experience as well moments of deep bliss and contentment. But it's all packed into that journey, and you know, that's why I love the symbolism of the heroine's journey, because it is also that it's never finished until you die.
That's correct.
It's
That's
like
correct.
cycles within cycles, and only looking, how do you say it? Looking backwards, is that it?
Hindsight?
Yeah. Yes. Is that you can see, oh, that were the lessons that I had to learn. That was the deep soul stuff that came up, you know, because when stuff comes up, it's like, where does this shit come from?
I know.
Because it can feel like, you know, a situation in this lifetime that you think, but why did I have to react this way?
Right.
Because we are so unaware of the unconscious stuff that sits within us, the baggage we have. I mean, I don't even have words.
Well, I'm understanding what you're saying. Like certain things you're not going to know. You have a problem with it until something hits you that brings it out. It's almost like real life example. Okay. I used to manage this huge furniture store. And I used to have to train salespeople, credit people, you know, all of this stuff, right? When I'm going through the training, I'm giving them all the basics. You know, this is what we're going to do. This is what the company stands for, blah, blah, blah. And they take on the floor running. But every now and then a customer will come in and have something that we didn't go over. So now they're running back. What are we supposed to do? But you don't know that you're supposed to teach these things until you've experienced it, right? So now we go back and now we have to bring up something or we have to create something to handle that situation. So the whole point of it is a lot of times we do think we're healed, okay? Because we're not in a position that will draw whatever is lying dormant out of us for seasons and seasons and seasons. So you think you've already got there. And then one day something happens that you weren't prepared for. And it drums up all of this stuff. And now you're like, okay, we got to heal again. I'm going to my bat cave. Right? Oh, yes. So yeah, I get it. It's always going to be an evolutionary journey. We're always going to be perpetual students, even those of us who are teachers. We're still going to be learning things. The universe does not stay stagnant. Everything grows and expands. And we have to be able to grow and expand with it. And people who can't do that, they get stuck in cycles. They don't even
and that's why I'm really happy that you're talking about these things as well in your videos, because as a healer, for a long time, I mean, I studied social work and psychology, but didn't really get into the spiritual part of it until I got a burnout, which I now call it was just like a freaking spiritual emergency and so lost. And then afterwards a depression, which I now not call a depression, but that was my first opening up of ego deaths and being aware that there is more than what I had studied. And it always made me unsure as a healer. Can I heal people now? Am I a healer, you know? And I think a lot of people who have gifts struggle with this thing, like, do I have to be healed completely to do this work? Or do I learn as well along the way by sharing my gifts and not looking at it like it has to be completed? You know, we are so on labels.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of healer am I? What should I call it? And that's why I just contacted you, because I'm so tired of the whole thing being put in, you are this or you are that.
Amen.
And I mean, a lot of gifted people don't come out with their gifts, I guess, because they think I first have to do an education. Education is very important to me, because you have to have a foundation, and there are a lot of people out there who also are not authentic healers, or are just doing it for the money and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But it's also nice to know for those, and you were saying that you were thanking all these people. And I was so grateful that you mentioned it, like all these people who do things to help humanity, and who are like, the agents, I should say, of this new era we're entering, to put up better systems.
Yes. Yeah. We have to.
Yeah.
See, that whole vanguard of you happen to have these degrees and going into college debt, you know, especially if you don't come from money. You know what I mean? Now, even when I went to college, I skipped a grade, right? I skipped a grade when I was young. And I went to college at a very young age. Okay, I was 16 going into 17. I wasn't mature enough to handle college. Okay, I just wasn't. This was my first thing of getting out from underneath my grandparents and parents, and my being out on my own. And I spent more time at the frat parties than I did in class. And what ended up happening was, hey, I'm going to be authentic. I was wild, had fun.
Yeah.
And what happened was I lost my scholarship. I had an English scholarship to go, and I lost it. And they sent a letter home to my grandmother and said, she's too inconsistent. She's not showing up for class, right? So now my grandmother is like, well, I don't know what you're going to do because we can't afford it. So now we have to go through, okay, this thing of financial aid, or me having to work and do all of this. And I'm drumming up all of this college debt. And then we get this college debt and we get these degrees, and it doesn't guarantee you a position anywhere. It doesn't.
No, because this is what I'm telling my daughter as well. I said, you know what? I studied for 10 years. I didn't finish my psychology. I did all the knowledge I wanted to have.
Yeah.
But I didn't finish with a degree. I mean, I studied it for 5 years. And I was telling her, you know, when I got that burnout and depression after working for 11 years as a social worker and a teacher for social workers, I said, you know, I was broke at one time after all these years of study. And I told her, I was told that if I would do this, I would be successful.
Right. Yep.
And, you know, but that was also part of having an intellect and being intelligent, was what I later discovered, why I got praised, for example. So of course that was important. And when I suffered that burnout and depression, and your ego is slowly starting to like die.
Yeah.
Then you know that, okay, you know, I followed all the rules, and still it didn't bring me where I was supposed to be, I guess, because the soul has an own agenda. And I'm very happy that I have that as like a basis, because I love studying. But nowadays, I mean, you can study whatever you want,
Right. Going in.
because it's about the knowledge and the wisdom, you know,
That's
that
right.
you gain through reading, through studying. I mean, every topic that you're interested in, I think that's a beautiful thing to deepen that knowledge.
That's right. That's right. Because what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge applied, right? So if wisdom is knowledge applied, then what is understanding? Then it has to be the understanding has to be knowledge and wisdom perfected, comprehended. Okay.
And what is that called?
What the
What is that
comprehending?
called? When knowledge, no, I mean, we are talking about alchemy, gnosis, Sophia consciousness. What does Sophia stand for?
Sophia stands for the wisdom. Sophia is the wisdom. She's the principle. She is benign.
Yes.
I know what you know what you need to read, sister, because I think if you read this book, it's going to unlock something else in you. Okay, now one of the things that actually started me on my journey, even though I couldn't comprehend this book at all. Okay, in my 30s, I read a book called Zohar. Have you ever heard of that book? Okay.
Yeah.
That Zohar has a glossary from hell in the back. I mean, everything, these words, you have no idea what they're meaning, and you're reading it, but it tells you something in the very beginning of it. It says, you do not have to comprehend this book for it to start activating and working something in you. It's automatically, just by pulling the information, it starts unlocking some DNA codes and genetics. So when you start getting into the other stuff that you are studying or reading, that foundation gives you the meaning behind the meaning, and you don't even know how you got it. You just learn how to comprehend it.
Yeah.
And so that was my book that actually started me on to gnosis. Okay, understanding, okay, I can see the 12 tribes, but then you go into Zohar, they talk about the 12 petals of the rose. You know, I can see talking about God, and then you go to Zohar and you have big face, little face, reflected light, big light. So now I take these concepts now, and now I'm understanding it, and I'm applying it to my own journey. Okay, what light am I absorbing? What light am I retracting? What, you know, all of these things. I find that the path, the left-hand path, and I resonate with Mother Blavatsky. Oh, do you know who that is? Okay.
I know.
I resonate with Mother Blavatsky, or Helena Blavatsky. I do. And I like her work, because if you were to actually label me, even though I will say I'm meta-spiritual, meaning metaphysical, okay, metaphysical, esoteric, but I'm also dealing with the spiritual system as well, or spirituality, I converse it. This is my upgraded version of theosophy, but it's still theosophy. It's me taking these concepts, me taking this understanding and making it and molding it to something that is applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
And if everybody gets them, we're going to be fine. And I don't have to think like you. I don't have to worship. I don't have to have your spiritual system, but you and I will still always be sisters, because we have an understanding, you know, of one another. Simple dimple. Right?
Yeah. And I really do hope that in the clubhouse thing, the way it will go, if people join there and ask questions, that we can build that up as a kind of community where, you know, knowledge and wisdom used to be in mystery schools.
Right.
And I mean, these things nowadays, if you're just in your bed and you can enjoy like philosophical or these kind of deep conversations which can lift you up intellectually. I don't know such a group, you know, so I'm very happy.
We're going to do it. That's us.
Yes.
Our group, the two Sophias.
Yes. I said, you know what I said? Like, before I even got on your YouTube channel,
Mhm.
I put on some rings, and I thought, you know what, this whole Sophia thing has been with me for such a long time, because I have like, these are like books I read a long time ago, but it just rang again that I thought, it's about Oria Mountain Dreamer is her name.
Mhm.
And she wrote a book, The Invitation. I don't know if you know it,
Mm-mm.
but it has the invitation, it has the call, and it has the dance.
Okay.
And then I thought to myself, Jesus, I heard the call all my life. There is a poem on YouTube somewhere, but I didn't answer it correctly, or maybe I did answer, but I didn't do the dance with Sophia.
Right.
And then I thought, this is like you uniting, or reuniting the masculine and the feminine, the inside, the outside, as above, so below, the
Yes.
whole polarity thing, in growing into wholeness, and integrating all these soul aspects and parts.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I got married, I guess, to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So my last name is now Sophia Christ.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And because my organization is called Gaea, because that's a whole other story,
Mm-hmm.
in how Gaia came to be. And that is also a part of the story of the divine feminine from another viewpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if you know the story of Gaia, but that is maybe another kind of story, how she
I may, but I might be. Is
how
it
she
from
is
ancient
connected.
cuneiform?
Huh?
Okay. I know it from ancient Babylon, from Tiamat standpoint. Is that where you're going with it, or somewhere else?
No, because Gaia came to be out of chaos, but it
Yeah.
was the whole, how do you say it, the fall of a creation story as well. But I cannot remember now how the creation story actually went, in how she fell from, I don't know if you call it heaven, or
Oh,
she
she was
fell.
higher. She higher than that. She came from the Ein Sof. She's way beyond heaven.
But how do you say that? The Pleroma? Is it
Yes, the
Pleroma?
pleroma. Pleroma.
What is the name?
Pleroma. Pleroma. Yeah. Yeah. She.
And that was also a story that I read about the creation of humanity, that she fell in love with her creation. And that's why she fell as well.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Yeah. I do know the story. And interesting in ancient Sanskrit, okay, like in Hinduism has a very similar story too. Okay, because Brahma
Yeah.
has all of these wives, right? And his beloved was like, I'm not having this. Okay, and that's why I loved her too. We talk about Shakti now. So he had all of these wives, and he thought that he could do whatever the heck that he wanted. And she protested, and he kicked her out. Okay, in this story, he kicked her out. Now, as her primordial waters start to descend from those levels of the Ein Sof and entering into the realm of chaos or Malkuth, in halfway in between, she meets up with Shiva. Shiva is sitting there, and he takes her essence and puts it in his hair. And she becomes a permanent part of him, as well as her essence hitting the earth. So now that's why you will see Shiva and Shakti being perfectly balanced. Sometimes he's feminine and sometimes he's masculine.
She is,
Yeah,
this is so wonderful that you're talking about this, because I was just looking up something like this, and she was called Sati. But I know the story in another way.
Go ahead, tell us.
Yeah, I don't know the full story, because I just came across it and I thought, wow, it's like finding pieces of a puzzle constantly. Because once in my meditation, Shiva came to me, but I was also interested in the whole Shakti energy. So then I thought, but why did Shiva appear to me and not Shakti, So I was looking into this, and the whole, like he's the destroyer and he's part of the Brahma and the Vishnu and all these kind of things. And that there was like something with a fire, right, where she burned herself.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
then he got mad or something, Shiva, and went into the mountains. And then they wanted to return him, and they thought then they have to bring Sati. So you are the one who can tell the whole story perfectly, but maybe we should get into that myth and other myths. Maybe we should make like a conversation about the mythologies.
Okay. Yes.
And start with creation stories, like we talked today about Adam and Eve, but you have the creation story of Gaia. You have the creation story from all these kind of myths, right?
Spiritual system. Yep.
And it's like a really interesting topic as well, like how did creation actually started?
Okay. Yeah. Look, I think we actually need to do a whole video on that, because that is going to take us.
That's what I'm saying. Because you can link them so very nice to all these places that these myths were created, or which texts it is, because I think the whole Gaia thing was from the Greek, right? The Greeks.
I don't know. That Gaia doesn't sound like a Greek name to me. It could be, but I don't know. I always refer to her as Tiamat or Ki. I refer to the earth as either Tiamat or Ki.
and this is also for me very stimulating to as well go and find, because I have like so many articles to also get it back, like, oh yeah, that was that story, and get it more in the structure as well.
Shiva is coming to you in masculine form because Shiva, he's come to a lot of my sisters, like divine feminine sisters, because he is the one that is awakening the Shakti. Okay, if he's coming to you, he's trying to pull or get you in that energy. All right, but it's a positive thing. It's a positive thing. I have not seen him in feminine form this whole entire era. I have only been seeing him in masculine form. And not only is he a destroyer being, but he's also a creator being as well. People fear him because they focus on the destruction. But he creates. And when he creates, this is where you get the symbol from. And I talked about this in another video. This here is a mudra for Shiva, right? But at the same token, at the same time, if you think about the Bible and we say we like something or something is good or it's okay, what's the symbol that we use? See, Shiva's been hidden too, because there was various names to go with him. And since we're in this great revealing, he's making himself known right now. Like, I've always been around, and I am a creator being as well. And he is. Okay, so we focus on the negative portion of it, which is part of his duality. You know, he's supposed to destroy.
Yeah.
It's the 3 lines on his forehead. When you see the symbols of the, what is that called? The Shiva Linga, or you see the picture of the Shiva, and he has 3 lines right here. That stands for creation, observation, judgment, and then destruction. This is what he does.
And that is like the forces in nature as well, you know, and that's what the left-hand path for me is as well. Like destruction and creation are part of the whole.
Exactly.
And it's so nice if you know like the cycles of death, life, and rebirth, that it is a constant process. I mean, we are nature.
That's
so
right.
Why would we not in our lives get the force of destruction if we want to create new forms? Because that cannot be without destruction.
That's correct. That's correct. Order out of chaos. And the divine feminine is that chaos. Okay? We are shaking things up because we have to rebuild, you know, all together collectively. But, you know, what was interesting with having personal relationships with the divine, right? And our ancestors and having them talk to you. It's one thing when you read about them. It's something totally different when you get to meet them, when you get to, astral travel and you stand in front of a ascended master and he's like in his power. And I remember asking one of them, and I can't remember which one it was, about his masculine and feminine nature. And he said, his masculine nature is associated with the things that are good. And he said his feminine nature was the one with the negative polarity. Okay. But the way that he said it, he wasn't saying it as if one was good and one is evil, because let's face it, this is a matter of perspective, right? When we're dealing with good and evil, it's a matter of perspective. Right?
And it's the yin yang symbol,
Yeah. I mean, to an angel, demons are demons, and to demons, angels are demons. And so when you're dealing with the whole history of the earth, you got every type of sentient life form that is competing with the rain and don't like what another life form does. So therefore, we still do this to this day. Think about it. When we have people that's around us and say they're stabbing us in the back or they're doing something negative, what do we call them? We call them snakes. We call them devils. We call them serpents. That's the same thing that was going on then too. When I tell people how to look at things from higher vantage points on the level of duality, when we're in this earth realm, we're seeing duality, right? But it's just like a plane, okay? When you're getting in a plane, you're seeing things from the surface level. That level, I go to the airport, I see a bunch of moving parts. There's the baggage claims, there's the ticket people, there's people coming this, that, and I'm seeing a whole bunch. As I start to lift off, now all I see is the building. As I start to go higher, now I see the state. As I start to go higher, now I see the earth. And this is mental alchemy on how to transition from various levels to see the bigger picture. And once you start seeing the bigger picture, you're looking at these concepts and you're going, these are just polarities. And we're really fighting over nothing. We really are, but I understand that we have to go through these types of changes to get to the next phases. But it's how we are comprehending this. It shouldn't be us having to attack one another to get there, okay? We shouldn't have to be at war to get there. If we could only simply acknowledge everybody collectively that it is time for a change and we all want to change, we can get there peaceably.
Yes.
Perception or truth. Truth is only valid according to the level of comprehension that you can absorb. So your truth will never be my truth. If I'm looking from this vantage point and you're looking from that vantage point, our truths are not going to match. But it doesn't make it any less a truth.
No, it's like that. It's like that story. It's like that story of the elephant, right?
Yes.
Which part? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And I told this story before.
We all have part of the truth, yeah.
Various levels of truth, various perspectives, okay? And that's why Tahuti, Grandmaster Tahuti, and I love Thoth now. That's my buddy right there, okay? Grandmaster Tahuti told you all truths are but half truths, okay? Life is a paradox. All paradoxes can be reconciled. How do you comprehend that? When somebody tells you that all truth is only half truth, what he is saying is we're only dealing with the truth based on our ability to comprehend it. And somebody else, if it's two of us involved, is going to have a different perspective, maybe of the same occurrence. If I step outside and watch somebody get hit by a car, and I'm looking at it from my window, but somebody else is looking at it from the street, we're not exactly going to see it from the exact same vantage point.
No, and as well that we nowadays see truth as science, like everything science says is based on facts, and that's our truth, or it has become for the Western world a truth, but also almost a religion.
I know. So you'll see this movement where people are trying to remove religion to replace it with another religion that they're not calling religion.
Yes.
Okay. And this is what I'm saying. We have to balance this. We have to
Yeah.
balance it because we're always being pulled in a duality. We're always
Yeah.
either being pulled here or there. There's
Yeah.
always a third path. That's the narrow path.
Yeah.
That's the path where few will find. When they learn how to balance these things, this is when you ascend. This is
Yeah.
when you really start going through. But then, I don't want to talk about me anymore. I want to ask you, because I didn't know that you were into psychology. I want to ask you, has that had any type of influence? How were you able to balance your psychology, your psychological mind with your psychology degree, with your own spirituality? Do you find that sometimes it conflicts, or is it balanced for you?
I guess it's balanced for me because I do like it that I studied first what psychology was about, because I choose psychology because I was interested in why human beings do what they do, or a person does what he does.
Right.
And it is like a container for me now, in putting in understanding spiritual concepts. Because if you look at psychology, I mean, psyche means the soul.
Right.
And what we lost along the way, if you studied it in a university, is it used to be the study of the soul.
Okay.
And it was close to philosophy.
Okay.
So I think it gave me some kind of structure to think for part. And it's my foundation that I know, of course, the theories, or I knew it, because now I cannot repeat it anymore, what the theory of Freud was, or
right.
But I do like I do like the having the foundation of a theory, and then being able to let that go.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So it never really bothered me, or did something within my mind that I thought, but that cannot be true, because maybe I was never, that's why I didn't finish it as well. I was never someone who liked math and the whole statistics that come with psychology. The only thing that I wanted was actually to be a psychotherapist. Okay. But the road was too long, and it was too scientific for me.
I see. Okay.
Because I thought I just don't want to know about the numbers and stuff. I know that it was important, but I just wanted the knowledge, how you could see certain things. And for me, one thing led to another, because I was also glad that I studied social work before I went on to university and studied psychology.
Right.
Because it gave me, I liked the social work foundation for it, because that gave me more of looking at things, not that it's only in a human being that's the problem, but also the way society handles things and the way society creates problems for people. And I used to remember that I had an exam and I got a case study, because I had to say what the person had, like a diagnosis. And I said, if I look at this woman, her circumstances, I think I would get mad as well. Right. So, so I always look at my psychology study as I always wanted to do it. But then I got to do social work first. And it just gave me some extra knowledge. And I didn't get anything about Jung. I just started studying Jung in the last couple of years.
Okay. Oh my God.
But in the whole psychology study, I thought, why is Jung not mentioned then,
Right.
So the more spiritual psychologists and theories caught my attention. So it was just the path I had to follow.
I love it.
And I see it as like building blocks upon each other.
That's right. That's right. And I can see how that can work hand in hand too. And you can be very successful with that. Yeah, that's beautiful. You look like you got everything set up.
I thought so, but sometimes my whole transformation process gets in the way. And you know what? It was, I can see now, because I didn't finish psychology because I got pregnant.
Mhm.
And my dream of being a psychotherapist never became real. But now, after like the depression and the burnout and stuff, and I just didn't find the answers in mental health institutions that I knew back then, which brought me on the path of healing myself and becoming a healer in a way that not taught to me in school.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Because then I discovered Reiki, and I discovered energy healing, and I discovered all the things that I need. That's how I see it now. I have like a toolbox
Mhm.
with a lot of knowledge, but also experience. And I use those tools according to the person that comes to me. So if someone wants to do a meditation session, my meditation is also based upon not only spirituality, but mindfulness. I got, when I was studying social work, I also got like all these courses that were about creative visualization.
Love it.
So everything is packed into one.
Mhm.
That's why I call it holistic, because I just use what my studies brought me, and my direct experience, and the tools I gathered along the way that were more spiritual. So I am not only a healer that does energy work, but it is more like using all theories, all knowledge, all tools to share them with others.
That's right.
Because in the end, I also think it's about sharing the tools, because you can have talks with a lot of therapists, but you're going to do the inner work and the work on yourself
That's right.
by your own.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I think that's amazing. Are you practicing right now? Where you are? Are you practicing right now? Yeah.
Yes. I have a bit of a break or a timeout for a
Mhm.
couple of months, because I had to do my own healing,
Okay.
and it was getting in the way of helping people. And I also, after a couple of experiences that I couldn't keep a distance. I don't like keeping a professional distance, but I want to give it my all, and not have my own things come in between. And
Understood.
it took me for a while too much as well, because I also am very, how do you say it? I'm like a sponge. Is it a sponge? Yeah, in energies, and I had to learn how to handle that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm glad you brought that up. The empath and absorbing energy and not releasing it, and having it, harnessing other people's emotion, other people's trauma, other people's issue in your body, because you have not learned how to release it. And therefore their pain, their struggle, the way they think now becomes your own. You think it's you and it's not. Okay. But you don't find
but
it out till later.
but I do want to say that what I discovered as well, that all my clients are like a mirror as well, because it can be that I'm dealing with that same issue, or I've dealt with it, but because of them, I can feel as well where I'm not finished yet, or
Beautiful. Mhm.
if it is finished. So I can be as surprised as the client, but I'm telling clients that as well, that it can be that of course something triggers me as well. And afterwards I know, okay, Gail, there is some healing work to do as well for you.
Right.
And then I have to take some time out at times to process it for myself and not burden my client with it. And of course I'm a human being as well, and I think I had a couple of situations where I did burden clients. So yeah, that felt really, yeah, really hard. Was the first time that that happened to me, that I thought, geez, I'm just crossing the line of being too transparent.
Yeah, I see. I see.
And too authentic, you know?
Okay, Gail, because of the time, what I want to do is I want you to talk to the audience, tell them how they can reach you, who you are, like if somebody wants to get in touch with you, you know, go ahead and let them know about your channel and everything, and go ahead.
Okay, I am just starting again. Hello, audience. Thank you for being here with us, and I hope that this talk, yeah, lifted you up, or helped you in some way, or supported you. Confirmation, I think, is always very nice that you hear that from others. And I have channels on Telegram. Maybe it's good to put them like in a link. One channel is called Gail. That's my therapist channel. And I also am doing a media channel. So if this video is uploaded, this will be the first video I post about myself and someone else. So thank you as well for, it's almost like, how do you say it, when you do something the first time? I don't want to say it like when you're a virgin, and it feels like that. It feels like that. So thank you, Sophie.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
This is your first time. You doggone sure it don't look like it.
It's helping me also, like how do you say it, going over a threshold.
Okay. Beautiful,
so,
beautiful. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that we did this, and I really do hope that yeah, that we can do, I don't know the form yet, but I'm trying not to get into forms, because I am trying in my own life that things go organic, like you plant the seeds and it will develop into some kind of form.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have a YouTube channel as well, but all these things I just have to go and do now and put it out there. So this is my first, that's the word. This is my first coming out.
And we're proud of you, and you look fabulous, and you're very comfortable. So we're sure that this is not going to be your last. And
okay.
If you want to join us, well, I don't know, Gail. Of course, on Fridays I'm going to do the clubhouse. Are you going to join me?
I'm going to join. You know, I'm part of
every Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be in Clubhouse, and this is where we really get to talk. Okay, really get to be transparent, really get to be vulnerable. I am Sophie, and my channel is Dragon Lotus Meta Spiritual Society. Okay, and I'm on Telegram as well. I do have a group on Telegram, but I don't post anything in it. It's just, I don't even know why I created it.
I am me as well, and that's why I am just what you're saying. I am just putting this whole ego thing aside, and I my self-talk is like, you know what, Gail, this is like a whole new learning experience. It's like joining kind of a computer class, but now it's like joining a class where you just experiment with things in what works for you and what doesn't. I mean, the whole Zoom thing we were trying to do, you know?
That was hilarious.
Yes. So, you know, the whole path is about, if you want to be authentic. I used to be very perfectionistic, and I didn't want to make mistakes. And it kept me as well from trying new things.
Right.
And this time is about just doing and trying, and if it doesn't work, do something else.
Right.
You know, I mean, what else is there to do except work on your own transformation processes, getting to learn to get in touch with your feelings again. That's a lot of work.
And we shouldn't even be afraid to fail. I'm gonna tell you something. I would rather step out on faith and fail than live in regret that I never tried.
Same.
So there is nothing wrong with that, okay? Because if I do something and fail at it, when I go back to it, I'm going to know the areas that I failed and I won't do it again.
And even if you fail many times, you know, I
I don't
mean,
say thing.
the
Go
thing I learned is that is one of my favorite things to say to my daughter. I said, you know, how many times you fall, it's not that important. It's when you fall and you stand up every
That's right.
time, again and again.
Again and again, again. That's right.
And that is this life about. I mean, we fall and we weren't taught that, yeah, that life is about falling and failing as well, and trying new things and not being afraid to try those things. Because
right.
if you never try, yeah, you will not know what it's like. And maybe that's why the experiences are sometimes that harsh.
That's right.
Because I can be quite impulsive and very enthusiastic as well, without just looking how to do it first. So you have to fall a couple of times, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have just spoke my language. When I get an idea, I'm like, oh, I'm going. It's mine. And then later on, I'm going, how?
Yes, yes. And it's something to get used to, you know, because I used to be this real great thinker, thinking things over too long and not doing anything about it. And yes, I am an Aquarian, so I can be a lot in my head and caught up in mental processing. And you know, when you have a standstill, I've had a standstill because my dad died like 1.5 years ago as well. So then when you get these inspirations and passions up again, it's like you're like a child. That's what I was mentioning. Like last night, I thought, oh wow, this thing is gonna work. And it is, as well as in these times, like getting your childlike kind of enthusiasm again. You know, children are not afraid to fall. Children are not afraid that they're gonna be judged.
That's right.
And maybe because I've always thought about what other people would say and how would I how people will perceive me and stuff. I was very afraid of that, and even now I'm really still dealing with the fear of just putting myself out there and thinking, what the hell.
Right, I know. And some of the things, okay, we already know that a lot of people have a fear of failure, right? And it prevents them from stepping out on that, because they, you know, once you go through the ego death, you don't care about that anymore. But before you go into the ego death, you have a fear of failure. But it surprises people when I tell you that some people aren't moving because of a fear of failure. Some of them are actually afraid to be successful.
Yeah, but that is like what Mariana Williamson, that thing, you know, we're afraid of our greatness.
Yeah, yeah. And that holds us back. And we think, you know, that it's failure, but it's not that, because you actually know that you can do it. But what am I going to do now that I have this responsibility? You know, anybody that is coming out as a teacher or a leader of anything has a huge responsibility. And that responsibility is to get it right. Okay.
And you know what? Yes, I think that is as well a deeper issue, maybe because you feel it so much from a soul level. And I do think that we carry a lot of fear as well. You were talking about the witch thing and past lives. The deep-rooted fear as well to come out with your gifts, because in maybe previous lifetimes you were killed for it.
I was.
It's like, yeah, me as well. And I do think that I did as well, like very yeah, I'm gonna say negative things when I was in positions of power. Because a position of power is as well testing, or is gonna test you on your ego self. I mean, look at a lot of people who had like really high ideals, and you have to really be strong to not let your ego get that thing about power. And if you are a dominant person already, which I am,
Alpha females.
I think I am very careful, maybe too humble even, to go and stand in that power. But it's I'm getting there, and yeah, my numerology life path is a number 1, but I have to, on an emotional level, know that when I take that position, I do have to have the responsibility and the humbleness, to not being dragged maybe again in an energy where I will abuse that power.
Yeah. And
because I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm identifying with you exactly what you're saying, because I'm a life path 8. And a life path 8 is about their coins and power, right?
Yeah.
We're about our money and our power. So what happens is, if I am in a lower vibration, then all that is, that will turn into arrogance, that will turn into ego, that will turn into all like a dictatorship. I can be that, you know what I mean? So I, just like you, have got to go through and constantly remind myself how I got here, you know, the work that I had to do, and to understand other people, because the life path 8 got some negative stuff, and I'm a Scorpio too. Like, everything about me will point to something negative.
My rising sign is a Scorpio.
Think about me, like, good grief. And when I did my birth chart, and I had somebody do my birth chart, this guy, he looked at my birth chart and he said, "Oh my God." He's like, you got 7 teacher houses. I don't know what any of this means, okay? Because I've never was into astrology, and I'm waiting for somebody to help me with astrology. Maybe that's how we can help each other. You know, you can teach me some of those things. But, you know, he was like, wow, I don't know what that means.
But that, yes, and that is the beautiful part of it. If a community starts to come together and those gifts are brought together, I mean, how wonderful to build up like a kind of platform. And there are a lot of platforms already out there, but it is my dream as well to have like a psycho-spiritual network kind of thing, where practitioners can do referrals to each other, but also people can choose, like astrology was my thing since I was 13. That's when I thought, who am I and what the F am I doing here? I started to look those things up, and I'm still really using my birth chart to study astrology, but I do think it's also a lifelong process, because for me, with the whole math thing, and I don't have that kind of brain, that some things are just too beyond me. So it's nice if people can come on as well, like we're doing these interviews, to do like birth charts of or numerology. I mean, all these tools to get to know oneself are so important in this time.
Okay.
Because it's like, know thyself, heal thyself, and to thine own self be true.
Be true. I love it. Okay. Audience, we gotta wrap this up. We don't want to keep you too long.
Yes, we can talk for hours.
Yeah, we can talk that for hours, and you know, we don't want to keep you, because y'all going to fast forward this or click off if it gets too long. But I am grateful. She is from the Center for the Healing Arts and Well-Being. Okay.
Yeah.
And a beautiful sister. Oh my God, this is amazing. We're going to be talking on Clubhouse again this Friday, 5 p.m. at Central Time. Okay, you'll get to hear her again, myself, and all the other divine feminines that come into this group to share. Okay,
and don't forget the divine masculines, because I really do like to learn as well from these divine masculines who are struggling as much as divine, because it's not maybe
I invite them. They're scared.
Yeah, because I think it is a thing, because I was like in that whole feminism thing. And for me, I do think that the time has come for the masculines out there who are doing so much their best in as well in fighting their own divine feminine to come to rise.
Perfect guest. I know a perfect guest. I'm going to invite a very strong divine masculine on there this Friday. He's very in touch with his feminine side too.
And if we, even though we are not in touch with all these kind of things, I think together we are ready as females and males to leave those old patterns behind us, you know, like we are one. And I do think this is the time to, spoken as a real Aquarian, to build up a brother and sisterhood, you know?
Right. That's right.
And this is not about anymore the war of the sexes we've been in. Only with each other can we become one.
I'm going to tell you
that is the Sophia. That's the Sophia Christ as well, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We're going to try it, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me before, okay? With building something with divine feminine and then bringing a divine masculine in out of season, okay? About 7 years ago, I created a school, okay? And it was called the Zadok Priestess Institute, all right? And I scouted out women with profound gifts. Like if I was led to them, I would find them, okay? And I built this online school, and these women were practicing priestesses, powerful in whatever vein they were in, okay? And we were all growing together. But at that time, I had an elder that was a male and very nice, good. He was very good looking, okay, for an older gentleman, very good looking. And he, you know, was part of this, you know, just kind of in the background, but he wanted to introduce himself. And when we started to bring him in to introduce himself and teach some of the, and share some of his wisdom, I noticed that the women all started vying for the attention. They forgot, okay? Soon as the male came in here, all of the women, okay, some kind of way started competing with each other. And I also noticed that this masculine that was there was literally orchestrating it. Okay, he orchestrated it behind the scenes, all right, and then acting like a victim when it came from, and then everybody was fighting and this, that, and the third. You know what I did? I shut the whole shit down.
But maybe,
and I'm gonna start it again.
These things in transparency, because these are like the war of the sexes, but also the patterns of the feminine.
Right.
So I'm not gonna call it the divine feminine now, but like our female upbringing. When I used to work in the shelter, it was the same. That's why we didn't have people coming from outside. It was an all-women club. Because when a male joined, all these dynamics that go between women were brought up. But I think if we can work with the mirror stuff, and everything that is brought up in honesty, it will not be always, I think, very nice. But we can, in small groups, we can exercise in what actually happens in the world as well. Okay.
We can definitely try this.
And we can leave it like open. I mean, if males want to join,
I don't mind them joining. I don't mind them joining. I absolutely don't. You know, and then I was like, and I'm actually going to try it, see if I can bring one in this Friday. At least I know one.
But now you're bringing one in again, one with a lot of females. So maybe this is like this is like a shout out. If male figures are watching, you are so very welcome to join, because I do think that we healed a lot already as a collective.
All right. Ms. Gail, I love you, okay?
Yeah, I love you as well. And I'm so grateful for this talk. Thank you so much.
Let me know when you want to do it again. Like if you want to do a specific topic and we just come up here and tear it apart, we can do that.
I will see you on, or hear you on Friday. And I will let I will see what downloads I get as well, and where where this thing can go. But we're gonna leave it like, I just wait until the inspiration comes, and I think for you it's the same. And maybe for the public who is watching this, they can comment
Yeah.
what
topic.
topics they want and themes.
There you go. All right. I am Sophie, and I love you all. And
Me as well. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Bye.